In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 3 vegan breakfast recipes that are not oatmeal. Let's do it. Hello my honeys, it's Emmie. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Emmie. I'm a nutritionist and the creator of the Slim on Starch program, where you work with me as well as a mindset coach and a nutrition coach to lose weight on a plant-based diet. If you want to work with me and my team, go to healthyhunnies.org or just click the link in the down bar. Also, if you like this video and you want some more recipes, check out my cookbooks in the down bar. The first recipe is going to be a tofu scramble recipe. We do not do eggs, but we can do tofu scramble. So what you're going to do is take a block of extra firm tofu. You can choose any brand that you would like to. You're going to get this in the refrigerated section. If you are nervous about soy, please don't be, because many studies show that our hormone levels are actually improved by soy, because soy contains phytoestrogens. And what phytoestrogens will do is they'll mimic estrogen, which means any excess estrogen that's in our bodies will be removed because our body can rely on the phytoestrogens instead. So men, you are not going to get man boobs from having your tofu, I assure you. As Dr. Neil Barnard says, if you go to the beach and you see somebody with man boobs, it's likely not the case that that person is eating tofu. So you can either do this over a non-stick skillet, or you can do this over what I used, which is the Instant Pot. I don't own a non-stick skillet because I am very much embracing the principles of minimalism, so I am just using my Instant Pot. To prevent this from sticking, you can use some water or some veggie broth to keep everything moving. So what I'm gonna do is crumble up the tofu over medium-high heat. I just put the Instant Pot on saute. If you have a non-stick skillet, put it over medium-high heat and let it crumble up. I will say, before I put the tofu into the skillet, I made sure to press it to drain any of the liquid. This definitely isn't a necessary step because the liquid within the tofu can actually keep the tofu from sticking. But if you want to have more of a dry texture, if you don't want runny eggs, so to speak, then you would want to press the tofu beforehand. So I just crumpled it and put it over the skillet. Whenever I say crumpled, I'm always like, something about, I guess crumbled is the better word. I crumbled it up versus crumpling it, and I put it into the skillet and let the water evaporate as it started to cook through. And then I added in turmeric. Now, you're not adding in turmeric for the sake of the taste. You're actually adding in the turmeric because it gives it this yellowish color to make it resemble the traditional scrambled eggs dish. The key ingredient to this is black salt. The reason why is because black salt actually tastes like eggs. So when you throw it in there, I mean, you could give this to somebody who has never eaten tofu before, and they would probably think that they're eating scrambled eggs. I also put in some salsa. See, I don't like to do much work when it comes to recipes in the kitchen, and what the salsa does is all of the work for me, because the salsa contains onions and spices and tomatoes and garlic. So all the work that I would have to do was done by Tostitos. This is not sponsored, but thank you. Also, if you like your eggs to have a cheesy taste, you are going to want to add in some nutritional yeast. You can do this to taste. I love nutritional yeast in recipes, so I am generous with it, and I'll add 1 or 2 tablespoons. Then I threw in a handful of spinach. Don't be alarmed. Spinach wilts down so much that this is a very sneaky way to get your greens in the morning. I know that a lot of people have trouble with getting those greens in the morning, and spinach is the hack to doing this because it wilts down a crazy amount. And it looks really pretty in the dish. So I threw in some spinach as well and let that cook through. And then to make this pretty, when I plated it up, I actually took some spinach and threw it into the Instant Pot after and let it cook down a little bit so that when I put it on top, it could be a little bit decorative. And then I took some cracked black pepper and put that on top as well. Recipe number 2 is going to be breakfast tacos. We're gonna play off of recipe number 1 here. Now, if you don't have recipe 1 on hand, if you didn't make the tofu scramble, that's absolutely fine. You can simply replace that with black beans. Now, if you're a client of mine, you know that I don't like the word breakfast because I don't believe that we should subscribe to having certain meals just because it's a certain time of day. I believe that we should eat at whatever time of day our body sends us a hunger signal, and calling meals by certain names actually suppresses your body's ability to read when it needs food, i.e. you get hungry at 11, but you quote unquote already had breakfast and it's not time for lunch. Instead, I encourage you to eat whenever you get hungry and eat any food at any time of day. However, I'm making this video because I know that not everybody is ready to adopt that mentality yet, and we can make slow and steady changes from where you currently are. So if you're currently eating a standard American breakfast and you want some more ideas to move toward more plant-based for your breakfast, then this is a great next step. So first, I'm gonna start out with some corn tortillas. These are the ones that I got from Trader Joe's. You absolutely do not need a Trader Joe's. I cannot drive that point home enough. It just happens to be near where I live. You can get corn tortillas from any grocery store. Just look at the ingredients and they should just be corn, water, lime, and salt. And maybe there's some other things in there. You just wanna make sure that there's no oil that's added. So I'm starting out with corn tortillas. Now here's a little hack. If you freeze your corn tortillas and then you heat them up in the microwave, they'll actually start to curl up for you, so you can make sure that nothing falls out of your taco. So that's sort of what's happening here. It's not the most aesthetic in the world, but we're going for taste, not aesthetics. So I take my corn tortillas, I just put them on the plate, and then I took some salsa and added some salsa in. Now I'm taking the tofu scramble from the last recipe. Again, this is not required. If you don't have the tofu scramble, that's absolutely no problem. You can simply replace this with black beans and put that in instead. If you want to sneak some greens in as well and you didn't do the tofu scramble recipe, then you could wilt down some greens as I did in the first recipe, just over a skillet or in your Instant Pot with some water to sneak some greens in there as well. Next up, I'm going to take some refried beans. I am super lazy and I bought the canned refried beans. You just have to make sure that they're the vegetarian ones that don't have any lard added and also don't have any oil added to them. If you can't find any, that's absolutely no problem. All you have to do is buy some pinto beans and you can simply mash them up with a fork. So I added those in. It's a really great texture, really, really enjoyable in the tacos. And then on top, I just added some shredded iceberg lettuce. Actually, now that I think about it, this was shredded romaine lettuce. Honeys, it does make a difference. If you really wanted this to look pretty, you could take some green onions, also known as scallions, and you could sprinkle that over the top. And if you are feeding this to somebody that really needs a big breakfast, then you could get your tofu scramble from the first recipe and add that onto the side. Not required, just showing you some options here. Recipe number 3 is going to be a mango chickpea curry. Now you might be thinking, Emmy, what the heck? Curry in the morning? Are you crazy? Well, yes, I am crazy, but that's beside the point. As I talked about earlier in this video, I really want you to start to open yourself up to the idea that any food can be eaten at any time of day. I mean, in China, they have rice and soup for breakfast. If you're watching this video and you are eating more of a Western diet, closer to a standard American diet, to have something like rice and vegetables and chickpeas in the morning can seem very crazy. But something that we teach within my Slim on Starch program to my clients is that any food can be eaten at any time of day. And the reason why I'm putting this mango chickpea curry recipe in here is because I think it's a really great transition into that idea because it's sweet. And very often in the American world, we have very sweet, sugary breakfasts. And this is super sweet, but not as sweet as you, my bear. And this is a sweet recipe that can start to open you up to the idea of, okay, I could have something like rice in the morning. It's a great transition into this philosophy. So here is what we are going to do. So for this recipe, you're gonna need a can of chickpeas. It's totally fine to use canned food. If you are using canned chickpeas or any type of canned beans, you want to make sure that you wash the beans thoroughly until the bubbles are gone, because it's actually the bubbles that make you gassy. So make sure that you wash until the bubbles have gone away. Then I added in a cup of vegetable broth. Then I added in a cup of soy milk. Traditional curries do use coconut milk, but that's very high in fat, especially saturated fat, which is not great for our cholesterol. It's actually not good at all for our cholesterol. So I'm doing the soy milk instead. Then you're gonna need 2 cups of mango. I'm using frozen mango. Then to make this very sweet for you, you can add in a couple of tablespoons of maple syrup. If you want, you can omit this. You could use something like a date paste, or you could blend up some dates instead. Then I'm adding in a spice mix. The spice mix that I'm using here is a tablespoon of curry powder, a tablespoon of ginger powder, and then a teaspoon of garlic powder and a teaspoon of coriander. And then to really sweeten this up, you can add a little sprinkle of cinnamon. Now I used my Instant Pot, so I just put it on pressure cook for 2 minutes. If you're cooking this over the stovetop, you can just cook it until it's cooked through, maybe about 25 minutes or a half hour or so over medium-high heat, making sure that you're checking it and stirring it so that it doesn't burn. But the good news is that pretty much everything in here is already cooked. So it's not like you have to make sure that this gets cooked through. This is really just to get the flavors to marinate together. And then on the side here, I have some rice that I've cooked in my rice cooker, and I'm going to pair this with the rice. If you enjoyed these recipes, please check in the down bar for information about my cookbooks so you can get more recipes. And if you liked some of the philosophies that I talked about in this video and you want to adopt them yourself, then look into working with me. You can apply down below. I love you, honeys. If you made it to this point in the video, comment mango. And I'll see you in my next video. Mwah.